Hi everyone, my name is Nitya, and you are at my Flosstube channel, Daybreak Stitchery. This is a channel all about cross stitch and a couple of other things today too. It's the end of November, and so I'm just popping on to show you what I've been working on this month and to talk some cross stitch with you. I hope you've been doing okay. This has been an up and down kind of month. There have been some good moments this month, but I think some of you can relate to this. I feel guilty sometimes. I feel bad experiencing joy right now with everything that's been going on. And I'm trying to balance out speaking up, having tough conversations at work, supporting my students who are in need, desperate need of some social emotional help. Writing, calling my reps, and trying to keep learning. And there have been some nice moments, and there have been some very challenging moments too. And I think maybe all of us are going through that now. So we're just trying. We're just trying to do the best we can. I love Julie and Stitches, who I love so much, said the best thing in her Flosstube last month, which was use your voice. And I just keep thinking that it's so simple, and I just keep coming back to that, like use your voice. Have gratitude for the things that we have and the joyful moments that we have, and all the stitching time that we get and all the access to stitching materials that we get, but also use our voices so that we can lift each other up and lift up others too. I love that sentiment. Thanks, Julie. That's been a very kind of guiding sentiment for me for this month. We have all sorts to talk about. I'm just gonna get right into it. Usually I do in order, so I'll show you like finishes. I have no finishes this month. Works in progress, and then new starts, but these are all kind of mixed up here a little bit. So here we go. So the first one is a piece. I think you'll recognize this part right here. So this is Palestinian patterns, and it's by DecoElian. And she's a designer who sells patterns on Etsy. And then this pattern is from World of Cross Stitching magazine, January 2023. It's the World of Cross Stitch magazine that also had Sky Dragon in it and a bunch of other really cool patterns too. So I had started this last month. And this is kind of my piece that every time I pick it up to stitch on it, I try to donate to Palestinian Children's Relief Fund, PCRF. That's kind of my Palestinian cause that I've been, organization that I've been donating to whenever I stitch on Tatreez. So a couple other good ones to donate to are, I think people are donating to the Red Crescent and also to Doctors Without Borders, but PCRF has been my go-to. I also am on their email newsletter, so I get updates and things from them. So it's just who I donate to. So I've been doing that this month, stitching on this piece, I've added quite a bit. I've gotten into this motif here and this one here, filled this out a little bit more, and then I made it to, technically it's a square piece and it ends right here. But what I've been doing, since I have more fabric left on this, is I've been using the same colors. So this is, let's back up a little bit and talk about materials. This is Hot Cocoa by Bestitch Me. It's a really pretty neutral fabric, and it's a 20 count Aida, and I haven't ironed it, so it looks very wrinkly. So you're probably not able to see, there's very pretty modeling in it. Very light, gentle modeling. It really is like a cocoa colored, like a latte or cocoa colored piece of fabric. And so I'm using 4 colors of DMC. The bright pink, here, let me get you up close so we can try to identify them. So this bright pink, I think, is DMC 326. The dark green is 986. The dark reddish brown is 902. And what's the last one? Let me look. 910. The bright green is 910. And so I used the same 4 colors. I have more of the same. It's just one skein of each, and I still have more. So there have been all of these wonderful Palestinian cross-stitch designers who've been putting out patterns and like asking for us to share their stories, amplify their voices, share their stories with each other, and also to donate to organizations that are helping on the ground in Palestine right now. So this one here is by Hibstitches, and it's going to be a Palestinian flag with a watermelon as the triangle, and then this bottom will fill out with some olives and olive leaves. And then this will be the keffiyeh pattern, which is the Palestinian scarf that you might see people wearing. It's usually white and black, but I think there are other color combos as well. And there's a fishnet pattern. There are 3 motifs on that scarf, and one of them is a fishing net to represent the connection to the sea, the Mediterranean Sea. So that's going to come in here. So that's by Hibstitches, and you can find them on Instagram, and I'll link them as well as everybody else who I mentioned down below in the comments. And they were doing a fundraising pattern where if you donated $10 to PCRF, they would send you the chart for this. So you can message them. I missed the initial go around. I know it was going around, but I didn't catch it. So they had donated a whole bunch of proceeds that they had gotten to PCRF, a first round donation, and then I caught that announcement of the donation. I thought, oh yes, I want to do this. So I messaged them, I direct messaged them, and they said, yes, it's no problem. You can still donate and they'll still send the pattern. So I'm just adding it on to this piece. I'm making it one big piece and like patching it up with everybody's patterns. So this next one is Cypress Pendant, and it's by Tatreez Initiative, which is an organization it's really just a pair of people, and they're documenting every single Palestinian Tatreez motif that they can find. They're doing all the research, and they're logging information about where, because Palestinian motifs are very tied to cultural locations within Palestine. So they're trying to document where the motifs came from and give some history behind it. So they posted this pattern, and same thing, I think, for any time we're stitching on Tatreez, I think folks are being pretty good about donating to the cause, and not just taking. So that's going in there. And then underneath here, so there's this huge space here, is going to be part of, let me look up what it is. It's a pattern by Lina's Thobe, and it's just called Lina's Hanging Design. So this motif right here that's coming in is a feather motif, and it's like borders that will come in. I'll see if I can put in a picture of it, but I'm basically just stitching as far as I can get. I might not be able to stitch the whole thing in this space, but I'm going to keep moving. Like this is the corner, and I'm just going to keep expanding out until it fills up this space. And then I'll see where it all ends up on the bottom. If I can get it all to line up on the bottom, that's good. I'll have it line up. If not, I'll find some other borders. There's a really fantastic Palestinian designer who goes by Min on Etsy. I'll link them below too, and they've got some gorgeous Tatreez patterns. And they post a lot on Palestinian culture as well. So that would be a good one to fill in maybe on the bottom. I have a lot more of this. This is folded in half right now, so I have a lot more fabric. So the idea is just to keep adding, and then keep donating, keep reading. I'm terrible about posting on Instagram anyway, and I just haven't felt like posting anything joyful or jovial or anything that doesn't refer to the things that are the injustices that are going on right now. It just doesn't feel right. I know it's different for a lot of people. How you use Instagram, but I'm so terrible at using it anyway. So I've kind of used Instagram right now just to amplify, to like repost people's stories, to share stories. I'm updating like my reels every day, but that's about it. I haven't been posting much progress stitching, so this video is going to be my progress stitching. Okay, so please keep supporting Palestinian stitchers and keep sharing their stories. Tatreez and Tea has been doing a lot of really beautiful posts about heritage, like old photos, and talking about, she often finds like old photos or like old film footage of people, and then they will be wearing like Palestinian thobes, and she talks a little about the history of that. So there's just so much really rich cultural information that people are sharing right now. So it would be really good for us to keep sharing those voices, but also like there's a genuine need in that community right now. So we have to keep, within our means, try to keep giving and keep speaking up, help them out with that. Okay. Next piece is one of those, how you watch people's floss tubes and they sometimes show a piece that only has like where they've done only 2 stitches on it and it hasn't had much progress. This is kind of that one for me. So this pattern is called When This You See, and it's by Modern Folk Embroidery. And this is the piece that I started with a lot of advice from Nati, from Stitchy Nati, and who does a ton of tiny stitching. And so I started, this is kind of my largest tiny stitching piece that I've really started. It is 1/1. I'll hold it up again. It's 1/1 on a 40 count Edinburgh linen. It's, I'm not sure, I don't remember what color it is. It's like a winter moon or platinum, one of those like slightly off-white neutral colors. And this is using Sulky. The color number is 1103, and it's a 40 weight. It's not cotton, it's rayon. So, not a natural fiber, but very, very thin. And I feel like this has been the best thread that I've been able to find to do tiny stitching on. If it's not very crowded, and my camera won't zoom in very closely, so I'll just have to hold it here and show you. But the stitches don't get very bunched up. You know how when you stitch patches of, like, I added this flower motif is all I added this month. But even those petals, like, they're kind of bunched up together. So you know how that can get kind of uncomfortable if you have the wrong fiber to fabric combination? There can be too much thread to fill in the stitches. This is not like that at all. It's a perfect, very comfortable stitching. You don't have to struggle with pulling thread through the fabric. So thanks, Nati. I'm still carrying with me some of the tips you gave me on tiny stitching, and I'm trying more and more of that. So I don't know why. One day I just picked this. Oh, I know what it was. I'm very unorganized with my fabrics and flosses, and I had misplaced the spool of this thread, and I found it the other day when I was tidying it up. So I thought, oh, let me just go ahead, and I cut a couple of strands and just did a little bit there. So that's that. When This You See by Modern Folk Embroidery. I don't remember what that floss color is called, but the 40 weight Sulky line has an entire range of very, very dark shades, beautiful dark shades, like dark blue, green, purple, all sorts, dark teal. And I didn't really technically do any like Black Sampler November stitching. I haven't tagged anything, but I have stitched on. I actually did start a piece in DMC 310. So anyway, part of that is stitching in any dark tones. So that's actually a really nice line of dark colors for anyone who does tiny stitching. Okay, next one is just an experimental restart. I restart projects a lot. Some of it is because I fall out of love with my original fabric and floss color combo, so I just scrap it and set it aside to reuse for something else. But some of it is genuine, just I want to experiment with flosses and fabrics, and this is kind of what that is. So I don't know, are you able to see? Because my camera won't really focus, this may be tricky. This is Afshan Sampler by Maryam, MarroomyDesigns. And I have one that I've started and I'm well on my way on it, but I'm just having second thoughts about some of the color combinations, and I've stitched it on an even weave, which is not my favorite to stitch on. I prefer linens and Adas. So I'm just experimenting with this fabric and floss combo. So what is it? This is actually, did I bring the tag to show you? I didn't. This is actually just a piece of fabric from Michael's, which is my big box craft store. And when I was at Michael's and I was picking out DMC for a new start that I had this month, and in the same aisle as all the DMC, there are these 2-yard packs. Let me see if I can, I brought the rest of it. These packs of fabric, they're basic, this is very not folded very neatly, but they're basically packed like this, and they have a tag around, a paper tag around them, and it just says cotton, 100% cotton fabric, and it's packs of 2 yards of cotton, and it's mostly plain colors, but they have some prints as well. And I was just kind of looking at those fabrics, and I thought, I can see the weave in it. I don't have a nice enough camera to show you like close up, but you know, a lot of time, I think a lot of us do this, like when you go to thrift stores or anywhere, basically, we try to look for things we can stitch on. And so it's very easy to see the weave on this cotton. So I picked up a pack. It's $15, although, you know how it is at Michael's is one of the big box stores where there's always a sale going on, always a coupon. So I think I got 30% off or something. So about $10 for 2 yards. And it's a little bit tricky. I thought I could do 1/1 stitching. So I haven't counted it. I don't know what the count is, but it's very small. And so I haven't been, it's too small for me to do 1/1. I couldn't do 1/1, but I could do 1/2. And I'm using 1 strand of Overa Soie 103. It's a silk. It's just their blanc, their white color. And I have a bunch of Overa Soie left over because I did Where Flowers Bloom. I stitched on a piece that I finished a couple months ago, and now I have a lot of leftover Overa Soie. So I've been kind of looking for projects to use for that. And one of the things on that project, I was stitching on a 32 count linen, and I really like for stitches to be totally covered up. I don't like the fabric to be peeking through the stitches. Like I don't like where you can actually see the X with fabric poking through. So on that project with the 32 count linen, I had to use 3 strands of Overa Soie 103. And it's not an ideal match for me. I don't like to use 3 strands, and it's a waste of that silk. So I've been thinking, how else can I use the silk? I don't want to have a repeat of that. So I thought, well, these tiny stitches, maybe this is a good chance to see how just one strand of Overa Soie works. And it's great. So I'm stitching 1 strand over 2 on this. And I think it's showing up pretty well. So I have, this is the top corner. So this border that's coming here will go all the way around the whole piece. And then at the very top, there's an alphabet. And, oh, Maryam, I'm forgetting. It's either an alphabet or it's a phrase. It's a quote. And so I'm stitching the letter. I think it's an alphabet because look at how similar some of these letters, these characters are. So I think you'll Maryam, you'll correct me in the comments. So I'm working on that part, and I'm really enjoying it. And I think it looks great, and you're still able to see the contrast. I don't know how to show you. I'll put in a picture, but the couple of times I have posted on Instagram, I've been posting pictures of pieces with my stitching light directly on them. So like right now you're seeing this with a lot of light on it. But some of my pieces actually look better with the lights off. I'm not saying in pitch black, but with just like very minimal, like, you know, my regular ceiling light that's on in the background. When the lights get dimmer, some of the stitching actually shows up better. And I think it's because, in this case, that's one of those. And I think it's because when the lights are off, this is like a medium gray, but maybe it just looks darker gray while the blanc still looks blanc. So the contrast between the fabric and floss is showing up a little better. So, you know, my living room is pretty dark. So it's kind of like you really notice those light and dark contrasts when the lights are dim. So anyway, it's just an interesting observation. And yeah, I know, got nothing more to say about that. So anyway, I will keep going with this, and we'll just see where that takes us. I love Afshan Sampler. It's one of my favorite pieces by Maryam. It has it's a beautiful border sampler, and it's very meditative. So it's great mindful stitching because some of them, it's very repetitive. There are a lot of repetitive motifs. And there are also a lot of motifs that are where you can stitch like an entire row across. So like, so for example, there's a border coming in right here. Like technically, if I just needed something easy and not too stressful, or not too, you know, I don't have to pay too much attention to it, I could sit an evening and just stitch like the top line of this border all the way across. And then the next night I could stitch like this, the middle bit of this is just stitching every other square across. So there are a lot of motifs where that happens, where you can just easily stitch one bar of it across. So I find that very relaxing. And there are evenings when I come home from work and I just don't have it in me to read a chart or to change colors frequently or things like that. So, okay, I want to organize these pieces that I've shown you and grab a couple others, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I have started a whole bunch. My whole year this year, I was really trying to rein in my starts, and it worked a bit, but not as much as I would have liked it to. I've had many moments of weakness this month and started a lot. So one piece that I started is this one I talked about a couple months ago. It's Be a Friend. It's by Needlework Press. Where's their name? It's down here. Needlework Press. They do kind of these traditional samplery things, which is not usually my style. However, I'm going to heavily adapt this one. This is going to be a tribute and kind of a memory piece to my stitchy friends, Sarah, Julie, and Maryam. We call ourselves the Quad City Needle Minders because we had that retreat this summer. We all met, rented a house together and met and stitched and did retreaty kind of stitching retreat sorts of things. And I had created a palette of classic Colorworks colors that all reflect, the names of which all reflected the places in the Midwest where the four of us are from. So I've been wanting to stitch a Friends related piece with those colors to take with the next time we see each other, and just have as kind of decoration to our next retreat, whenever that is. So I'm changing quite a bit in this one. These alphabets up here that have sets of 3 letters, I'm changing all of those to be cross-stitch acronyms. So like WHIP, FFO, SAL. Hold on. We zoomed, the group and I zoomed earlier this month. We've been trying to be better about trying to Zoom once a month, which has been really nice. It's been really great to see them and just catch up, talk stitch, a lot of stitchy talk, and sometimes other life catch-up kind of things, and just running ideas across each other, and also sometimes just sitting in silence and putting a few stitches in, and all of that is just so wonderful. I really love them. So they helped me come up with a list of acronyms, okay? I'll hold this pattern up and envision these acronyms going in across here, okay? So we've got SAL, SAF, start and finish, WHIP, of course, FFO, FFN, which I think is finished for now, a UFO, unfinished object, a BAP. Maryam was on a roll of thinking of some new acronyms for us. So one is FAD, which is finished and displayed. Like it's on the wall, it's in its place, on the shelf, wherever it's fully finished and displayed. FAD. ORT is one that I think we all know already. PFO, I can't remember if Maryam, did you come up with this or does it exist already? You all will know. PFO is pulled from Oblivion. I think that came from there's a website that has a whole bunch of cross-stitch acronyms. I think somebody looked it up. USP, this might be a made-up one, unstarted projects. And then an L2L, I wrote down because we were talking about lemons to lemon. L2L is lemons to lemonade. So a project that you really hate, but you did something to make it, you know, your lemonade out of lemons. An L2L project. So there are surely others. If you have others, let me know and I'll throw them into this piece. This part here, these alphabets, I'm going to replace with our names, the 4 of us. And I need something to do with the lowercase alphabet, because I think all of our names will fit with the uppercase one. So, oh, maybe I'll put Quad City Needle Minders there. And then what's the quote on the bottom? Down here, there's a tiny quote which I'll leave. It says, "Without a friend, the world is but a wilderness." Without a friend, the world is but a wilderness. It goes this way. So I'm using, so should I show you this? Let's actually look at the stitching. So I'm using that color palette that I shared with everyone. And when we Zoomed earlier this month, I started stitching on it. So what's this fantastic fabric? Because I'm sure you're just like me. Every time I pull it out, I'm looking, giving it some oohs and ahs. So this is by Jackson Fabric Arts. This is the one that I'm using on my Namárië tapestry, which I'll show you in a little bit too. It's a hemp fabric. It's a locally sourced hemp fabric, and the designer is from like Virginia or North Carolina, I think, but it's locally sourced hemp, local to them. So it's 32 count, which is all they're able to weave. They're only weaving 32 count for now. But can I just show you? I mean, the coverage is outstanding. I'm really impressed with this. I wonder if I need to just give 32 count another chance. I usually stitch on 36 count or 40, but it's looking really good. So I've started here. If you look at the picture, that border with the flowers on top is what I've started. That's in the middle there. And then I've just started doing this, like this little border right here that will go underneath the acronyms. That's there too. This colorway of fabric, all of the fabrics on Jackson Fabric, what is it? Jackson Fabric Arts, I think it is, on Etsy. They're all named after places. So this is named after Tulum, and my well, we'll talk about Namárië when it comes up. That's named after a place too. So that's that, and I'm loving it. This fabric is fantastic to stitch on. It's maybe my favorite cross-stitch find from 2023 is this fabric. It's very, very soft, and it feels smooth, like really smooth and silky, but it's not slippery like Witchelt linen, not at all. It's very soft linen. And the colors are very rich. Every color that I've seen, her dye is really beautiful, so love that piece. So, and I'm stitching 2/2 on that one. I didn't bring the Classic Colorworks palette here because I've taken it, they were all on a ring and I've taken it all. It's kind of messy, so I didn't organize it and bring that to show you, but most of the colors are kind of, there are some oranges and like purpley grays and then some neutrals in there too, and that's basically it. This is a pretty good sampling of what those shades look like. So I'll be working on that, and I like the idea of every time we meet in person that we actually have some pieces related to friendship that we put up on display to kind of create the ambiance of that space. So that'll be going towards that, with that idea in mind. Okay, next up, let me just make sure I've mentioned everything I want to mention. Oh, can I mention, I got big old notes for today. I do want to mention one thing. You know, I mentioned all those fantastic Palestinian stitchers who I think a lot of us, if you already know from earlier in my video, I do want to give a shout out also. There are a couple of non-Palestinian stitchers who are doing the right thing, which is that they feel compelled to use their creativity to create something, but they're giving those patterns for free, and they're telling people to please donate. Don't just stitch, but also donate. So I want to give them a shout out too. One is Yas, beautiful hearted Yas from Yasmin's Made with Love, has created a pattern that I think a lot of you are stitching on already. It's Palestine, using Palestinian colors and then a dove flying over. And she's encouraging to donate. You donate and then you can get that pattern. Maryam, who is Crafty Yams, Maryam, also did a similar thing. I think it's part of, is it like one of the initiatives from Stitchers Collective maybe? I think there are a few stitchers who have gotten together and done this kind of Stitches for Peace thing, initiative. So those are the two that I've seen. If you've seen other ones, let me know. I don't know about any other ones, but the two of them made something beautiful to share. And then you can donate to PCRF or I don't remember what other causes they're talking about, but I think Maryam's is Doctors Without Borders, maybe. So way to go for them for not selling those patterns for profit and for, raising awareness about that cause. And then the other one I want to give a shout out to is Audrey Munro, who's a member of the Snarky and Modern Cross Stitch Facebook group. And she has also created, she's created one in the past and one more recently, a pattern based on, the first pattern from before was based on a poem, I think, by a Palestinian writer. And this recent one was a quote from either a child or a parent, a Palestinian child or parent who's been suffering there this month. And she also posted a thing that said, like, please donate. If you're going to stitch this, I'm giving it to you for free, but please donate on that too. So it's been good. It's been nice to see stitchers coming together. I mean, I was thinking of calling this video, I never know what to call my Flosstube videos, but this one I was thinking of calling it Sticking Together and Stitching Together, because it's really empowering. When you feel terribly sad about horrific things that are going on, it's just so, it gets me a little emotional. It's just so empowering to see even just one other person sharing in that pain, in that demand for social justice, in that coming together to use our creativity to do something. It's very empowering to see that in the community. Not every space that I belong to has that sense of solidarity. So thanks to everybody who's contributing to that. Okay. I want to pause there a second, and I have a whole bunch of stuff to show you in this next bit. I went to a guild meeting this month, so I have a bunch to show you from that. Let me get that all together, and we'll chat again in a sec. Okay, so I went to this month's guild meeting. I joined a guild. It's been maybe 3 months now. I joined over the summer. It's the Windy City chapter of the Embroiderers Guild of America, the EGA. And they meet once a month, and I don't make it to all the meetings, but I made it this month. And what a meeting to attend. There was all sorts happening. First of all, the theme of the meeting, they try to have like a theme or a topic for people to stitch on at the meeting. So this month, it was their initiative. They have started an initiative where they get people to stitch bookmarks. And because they have their meetings at public libraries, it's kind of a way to give back to the public library that hosts them. So they're looking for people to stitch bookmarks for kids, for teens, and it's going to go into like the children's and young adult sections for anybody to just take. They're totally donated bookmarks, and they're up for grabs. So I was looking for, a lot of people were stitching on bookmarks with very cute patterns. A lot of them were kind of a little old-fashioned looking, like how the styles of cross stitch from like the 80s and 90s were just a little different and just look kind of dated. So people were stitching on those perfectly fine patterns, but they just weren't speaking to me. I was trying to look for something. They recommended actually stitching, like if you can stitch a bookmark that said, that promotes reading banned books, for example. They said, go do that. That's a great idea. I couldn't find that, but I did find by Concaval Crosses. You can search. I just Googled bookmark cross stitch patterns, and this is one that came up. And it's gonna say eventually, hands off my book. And it has this repeated pattern all around it. And that's all it's gonna be. It's gonna say hands off my book. And it's a free pattern. I will mention them below, and then you can just Google and find it. I thought it had the right amount of snark. I work with teenagers. I'm a high school teacher, and I like the attitude. I like the sassiness and the having an opinion. And so that just seemed to be the right fit. And it's also monochromatic. It's really easy to stitch. And so I thought, okay, I could make a couple of these and that would be manageable. So I didn't finish it. I only put in a few stitches because, oh my gosh, there was so much going on at the guild meeting this time. So I barely got started on it. Got anything in there, but it should be a quick, I mean, I'm hoping I can finish this before the end of the year, and maybe even before the end of next month, and maybe even take it to next month's guild meeting. So that's that one. So what happened at the guild? Let me tell you. So first of all, they asked if I would join like their executive council. I think like it's like new blood, you know, they got so excited to have new blood, and they were like looking for new like people to take turns doing things and like offices. And I just said, I'm new to this. I need a year. Like I can't be taking any responsibilities. Like a lot of people in the guild are retired. This is the same thing that happens like in my professional teaching group as well. Like it's full of retired teachers and then like a few working younger teachers. And so they like hound everybody to be like, you would be great for this role. And it's like, I'm working. I have a full-time job, and like for the guild, I've only been a member for like 3 months. So I just told them, I said, ask me again next year around election time, but I'm just not up for it now. And I feel like people who have time should be taking up those roles, you know what I mean? But I'd like to be a member, just a plain member for at least a couple of years before even considering doing something like that. Plus, I'm only a cross-stitcher, and I've met a lot of these guild members now. They're really sweet people, and they do so many different types of crafts, so many different types of embroidery and needlework that I just haven't done enough to really feel like I can have any kind of leadership role in that. So that was an interesting little chat at the meeting. But let's get to the fun stuff. There was tons of stuff they were giving away. So they this is gonna sound harsh, because it sounded harsh to my ears when I first heard it. They referred to this as a death stash. Okay, they had a member who passed away in the spring. She passed away before I joined. I never got to meet her. Sandra was her name. She was very well loved and thought of very positively. And she passed away, and her family contacted the guild when they were going through her possessions, and they said, look, there's like boxes and boxes and boxes of her needlework. Would you like to have this as the guild? So a few of her close friends who are guild members, I think like 3 or 4 of them, picked up the boxes and just sorted through it, and they picked out a lot of stuff to use as fundraisers for the guild. But then even beyond that, they just had like hundreds of cross-stitched like pieces, unfinished cross-stitch pieces, supplies, just also tons and tons of magazines and things. So they were encouraging people. What they decided to do is they brought the finished the finished projects, but not fully finished, okay, the stitched projects. They brought just stacks and stacks of them to the guild meeting, and they said, look, everybody, go through, pick a few out, and then in February or March, I can't remember, they're going to dedicate the meeting of that month towards finishing techniques so that we can all sit and finish Sandra's projects, which I thought was a really wonderful thing. I mean, how many times have we all talked about that whole idea of like what happens to our stitching when we're gone? You know, that crosses our minds, right? We all stitch so much. And so this is just one example of something that might happen. I think it's a really nice way to remember her, to hear stories about her, but also to teach new skills to people too. So I'm pretty excited about that. I thought I would just show you real quick some of the pieces that I picked, some of Sandra's finished pieces that I picked up. Maybe you can help me identify these too. So this is one. I'm pretty sure this is a prairie schooler. It looks like it to me, like from one of the seasonal booklets or maybe one of the monthly booklets, something like that. But you'll probably know better than me. So that's one. This is one. Does that look familiar to anyone? It's got some beading on it too. You can see up there. This, I thought one of the members was saying, oh, this would make a really cute, like a topper for an Altoids tin. Are those still a thing? I feel like I haven't seen Altoids in a long time, but so I'm going to play with that maybe see if I can like put it on some foam core or something and then play around with using it as a box topper. This is very cute. Coffee stitch. I'd love to know what it is. Does it look familiar to anyone? It's just very sweet. Like those leaves and berries at the top are so nice. And then this teeny cute thing, I'd actually like to try to finish this month and get it on my tree. We just got our Christmas tree. We do a fresh tree for Christmas. We like having, it smells so good, and we like having lights on, like a really big night light on. So we just got our tree. So I'd love to finish this one. What do you think this is? Could this be like a Lizzie Kate or something? They all just look so familiar, but not familiar enough to call out what it is. This one too. I feel like this should be a project bag, maybe. What does it say? Swirly snow. Swirly snow. I'm loving that. Yeah, you know I'm a fan of yellow, so this caught my eye right away. But wouldn't that be a cute project bag? I don't know how to make project bags, so that's something I need to learn. And then what's this one? It's so pretty, this heart. I kind of want to frame this one and put it up. I like all the warm colors in it. She stitched her initials down here. She made this one in 2008. That's a beautiful, like this natural, what kind of fabric is that has this natural look to it like that? It's a darker natural linen. It's pretty. And then this is the final one. I just couldn't pass up this little, look at that little spider's face. Do you see him? So this is on some kind of sparkly, does it have sparkle? No, it's sort of like a tweed. It has kind of a tweed look fabric. And then the spider web has some sparkle to it. I don't know if you're able to see it, but so anyway, we're bringing all those back in February, and they're going to do some, they said they were specifically going to teach like how to lace pieces, like how to mount things on foam board and lace them, which is good. I've never tried it myself. I know there are lots of videos that show you how to do it. It would be easy, but it's kind of nice that we're doing that together. And I'll just see what other finishing tips I can pick up. I think that'll be fun. And then the last thing I picked up was there was another stitcher who's moving, and so she was going through all her stuff, and she just had a huge stash of old issues of the EGA magazine. I'll show you one. Cover of one. It's Needle Arts magazine by the Embroiderers Guild of America. Isn't that pretty? That is, I don't know what that is actually. I'm not sure what that piece is. Oh, I hope I didn't. I may cut this part out depending on if I showed the person's name and address in the video. Hopefully not. But anyway, it's the magazine put together by the Embroiderers Guild of America. So she was giving away, she's like, I'm moving, I can't have this stuff anymore. You guys go look through it. And I found so many cool issues. Like nobody else was looking through them, I think, because all these people, a lot of the guild members have been members for a long time. So like they all have these things. So I was looking through, and look at this cool one. So this is in the March 2019, oh, there we go, March 2019 issue. And there's in the letters section where like readers write in, there was this article. These are the pictures that go with. Does that look familiar to you? There's some Tatreez there. And the letter was really interesting. It was a letter that was written to the writer of an article that was basically talking about how the article had put all these pictures in and had talked about how it was Yemenite Jewish embroidery, Israeli Yemenite Jewish embroidery. And someone had written in and said, actually, this is Tatreez embroidery. Here are some old pictures of it. And so this person posting the letter was just saying, thank you for that acknowledgement. I didn't realize that it came from another culture. And so it was just cool to see an example of cultural appropriation corrected, you know. So that was a good find. And then, let's see what else. Oh, this one is look at this cover. Let me not show labels. This is the December 2020 issue. How about that embroidery on that cover? And it's a group of embroiderers. It's this Women of Akmim. Women of Akmim. It's a group of embroiderers from Egypt. And so it's just like interviews with them and talking about what they stitch on, what inspires them, and things like that. But the pieces are just so beautiful. Look at all those colors. And this is a group. There's a group here stitching together. So it's talking about that. So that was a cool find. And then, you know, these magazines also just have really cool projects, like actual patterns in them. Not so much a few cross stitch, but I didn't really see much cross stitch. It was a lot of needlepoint. So, this one, for example, is really cool. So this is called Once in a Blue Moon, and it's by Heather Lynn Gitlin. I don't know anything about needlework artists at all. But this is done in tent stitch here, the blue moon, and then they're all different kinds of stitches that make these borders around. And so they give you, I won't show too much of it, but they give you like a supplies list, and then the actual pattern is on the next page. So that just kind of drew my eye. I thought, oh, that could be like, as you will see shortly, I did actually try some needlepoint. It intrigues me. A lot of guild members do needlepoint. So I've been looking at it. Look at this. Oh, this is a member of our guild. This is Diane from our guild. Did this Chicago piece. So that's cool. I didn't even know that was in there. Anyway, yeah, some good, saved some magazines from the recycle bin. So we had some good finds there. Okay, there's more of everything. Let me put these items away, grab a few more, and I'll be right back. Okay, so next up is a new start. I was 100% enabled by Ale, who's Ale Donahi, or Donahi Ale is her Instagram name. And you're going to know Ale, or you can meet Ale through Catherine, who you know I love, from Neat and Knot by the Sea. And it's been a while now. Catherine does a floss tube with her friend Victoria, but she also does floss tubes in Spanish, and she has done ones where she's talked to some of our favorite people. So there's one that I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I still haven't even watched it. Her interview with Ana Aguayo, she does in Spanish. That's going to be, I will watch that today. That will be my special watch for today. I can't wait, actually. I love Ana. She's such a wonderful person. And so she did an interview with Ale as well. And that was really great, because Ale is someone who I've kind of here and there, kind of a little bit chatted back and forth with. She won one of the giveaways from one of my earlier floss tubes. That reminded me that last month was my, or maybe, I think it's been two, I don't remember. I recently had a floss tube anniversary, 3 years, and I haven't done any giveaways or anything from it. It'll come. Sooner or later I'll do one. But anyway, Ale has won stuff that I've given away before, and so we've kind of just had little points of contact here and there. But that interview with Catherine was really wonderful to get to know Ale a little bit better. And so I follow her on Instagram, and she started for Day of the Dead. She'd been stitching beautiful piece by Mexican cross-stitch designer who goes by Rondorama Mexico, Rondorama MX on Instagram. And so I said, okay, Ale, tell me how you got this pattern. I want to stitch on it too. I have two awesome colleagues who I love so much, and they are both of Mexican heritage and very proud of it. Actually, I'll try to put in a picture. One day, one of my colleagues wore some of her traditional, a top with some traditional cross-stitch stitching on it, and I just made a beeline. I saw her from 20 feet away. I was like, what? You have cross-stitch on it? I ran over there. I was like, can I take a picture? So she's like, yeah, of course, share, she loves the textile, native textiles. So, but anyway, so I wanted to stitch the pattern for the both of them. I thought I would gift it to them because they're really special people. They're people who I think they get it, I can talk about a wide variety of topics with them and they get it. So, very appreciative of having them in the department. They're both pretty new additions, like within the past 2 years of the department, and they feel like they've really zhuzhed up our everything we talk, our like talking about pedagogy, talking about cultural things, talking about what's going on in the world. Like we have more of those discussions because they're okay with it. So they've made our a workplace, you know, a better place. So this is gonna look a little bit crazy, okay? I'm stitching 2 of them at the same time. And it is sort of going okay. I thought what would happen is the same thing that happens when I try to crochet socks. I'll do the one and then not be excited to do the other one. So then you've only got 1 sock. So now when I crochet socks, I crochet them at the same time. So like I'll do the chain and then I'll do it like another chain separate. And then I'll do row 1 on this one and then row 1 on the second one. So I'll just kind of go back and forth so that I will finish both at the same time. So I had the same kind of concept on this. It's like, well, I'm stitching 2, let me go at the same pace. So like I started up here, this is the top center, and I thought, okay, I will finish this much. It was like maybe 3 lengths of thread that I stitched in. Okay, now do 3 lengths of thread on this one. Okay, you do a few lengths of this orange on this one. Now you do the same number of lengths of orange on this one. So I was just kind of going back and forth. It's not an identical match, but it's more or less the same. You know, I'm working the same areas and trying to get to the same points on this. So you will notice, like if I hold it here, this one is clearly farther along than this one. And that's because I got to this point on this one and then realized that like this pink part didn't line up with the green part on here. So when I started doing the face on this side, I was off by about like 3 rows. I had stitched it 3 rows too low. So I spent an evening, imagine all of this on this side. I had to remove all of that on that side. So now I'm still playing catch up. What I want to do is catch up this side to this side and then go back to doing the back and forth. So I will put up, if I haven't already, I'll put up a picture here of what the finished piece looks like. And you can follow Rondo Rama stitched it. It's Fair is her name, Fernanda. And she stitched it herself as well. She stitched her own design. So you can see what it looks like finished up. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think these faces are creepy. The only thing is that I'll have to ask Fernanda if she's willing to share, but like, you know, when you get the pattern, there's the chart there. It uses DMC colors, about maybe 10 or 12 colors. I love all the color changes in there. It just takes a while though. There's no cultural information on what these faces are. So that I'll have to just research on my own. I don't know yet what the significance is. Yeah, I'm not sure. So I'll find out. I'll find out about that and I'll find out about that and I'll share. If I find something, I'll share it with you. So if you want to stitch on this pattern as well, you can, what do you have to do? I will leave the information below. Basically, you can buy the pattern via PayPal to Fernanda. And so there's a PayPal email address, and then you have to email her telling her that you sent the PayPal, and then she will email you the pattern. That's how it goes. Thank you, Ale, for sorting that out for me, because now I'm very happy to share that with anyone else who wants to get that pattern. So, it's called Noche de Muertos. Noche de Muertos. Night of the Dead. Night of the Dead. Anything else there? Nope, that's it. I'm going to link the interview that Catherine did with Ale. I'll link that video below in case you're looking for something to watch. And, you know, I think it's a good idea to watch Flosstubes and other channels when they come up because it's real easy. You can put on subtitles and more or less, it's not always an accurate, you know, it's auto-translated, which is not always accurate, but you get the general idea of what they're talking about. It just means it's a little tricky sometimes to watch while you're stitching because, of course, you have to also look at the subtitles, but I just kind of look up every once in a while. And anyway, growing up in the Chicago area, you pick up on some Spanish words anyway, so yeah, there's a familiarity to it, I think, when I was watching it. It's really worth watching. I loved getting to know Ali a little bit better with that video. Oh, this beautiful fabric is Fox and Rabbit. It's Winter Wren. It's a great neutral. It's beautiful. It's dark. It's one of those like ideal fabrics for all the colors. Like every single color looks good on this. All these brights and light tones look great. Like this pale green looks great, but so does this. This is DMC 154 here. And imagine like a DMC 310. It would look great on this. White looks great on this. So the only thing, of course, that you might have trouble with is neutrals. You know, if you have a pattern that is mostly neutrals, you might have trouble, but all these bright colors look fantastic on it. So Winter Wren, it's a 36 count by Fox and Rabbit, and I'm using DMC threads and stitching 2/2. Okay, I have something else in my notes to share. I was going to share Namárië next, but I actually am using this fabric for another piece, so I'm just going to show you that one. So let me adjust it. You may recognize this. I don't know if you can tell. This is a flower sampler. It's called Flowers for Sylvia. And it's by D's 20 Stitches. And they had created this, oh, it's been a while now, but I only got it this month. You know, yesterday was their birthday, was D's birthday. And everyone's stitching on that new outstanding pattern by Maryam, the gift pattern. Which is Deefiant. It's got a bird on it for Flipty the bird cell. But I've been wanting to stitch on Sylvia for a long time. And then this month was also Trans Day of Remembrance. So stitching on a pattern. This is a tribute to Sylvia Rivera, who was a trans activist. It just felt like the right pattern to go with. And I had been waiting for a long time to get it and even start it because I kind of had this idea that I should like do queued up style. You know, my style that I've been trying to keep up with this year, which is to finish a pattern before starting the related one that you have queued up. I had been thinking, oh, well, Dee has all these great patterns and I can start on them when I finish Trans Pride Tapestry. That's just going to be a work in progress that takes forever because there's just so much fill-in stitching on that. It'll be one that I keep coming to and adding threads in now and again, but I'm going to go ahead and proceed with all of these fantastic smalls that Dee and Kari are always coming up with. So the symbolism behind this is really beautiful. It's a flower sampler, and all the flowers that are put in here have some kind of significance over, like during history and even now. They're worn by various members of the queer community and have been used to like identify each other. So they're like a symbol of identity, queer identity. Different groups, different flowers. So I think what a great idea for a sampler, and what a nice tribute to an activist from the community. So I'm using the called for colors. I wish I had brought the palette here because when I was picking out the colors at Joanne, and another big box store here, and I held them together. I thought, this is such a cool palette. It has like beautiful bright tones and like some unexpected colors, like this sort of, I think this is DMC 996 or something, that sort of aqua color in there. So pretty. It's just an unexpected pairing together of colors, and I really like that. And then I'm adding, I picked up a Coloris or a Color Variations. I'm not sure which is which, but it's, you know, the DMC variegated. They had one that had trans colors. So I picked that up and I'm just adding my own little border around the whole thing. And it's just going to be like a solid line and dots. And I might do more with that. I might do less with that. I'm not sure. But I just wanted to throw that in as well. And also just get a chance to use it and see what it looks like. So, Flip Dee the bird. So was yesterday for Dee's birthday. And I didn't stitch on a bird, but I started Sylvia. And, what did I want to say about that? Oh, the Stitch for Pride prompt this month was really good, and it sent me on down the rabbit hole for all kinds of really cool resources. So it was a TED Talk by Blair Imani. The resource that was shared for Stitch for Pride this month was a TED Talk by Blair Imani. So the topic was queer Muslim members of the community, like activists in the community. And the Blair Imani video was fantastic. And then I found 3 others that were also really great. I'll give you their names, and I'm going to link all their videos below as well. Like, pause here and just go watch them. They're all super inspirational, and I learned so much. I had never, the intersectionality of being queer and being Muslim had like never really crossed my mind before. So I had like many like, whoa, mind blown kind of moments watching these things. So one is El Farouk Kaki. One is Sabah Chowdhury, fantastic TED Talk by a trans person. And then Amru al-Kadi, also very inspirational and also like a little humorous too, threw in a little humor. And then I also found out about masjid.org, which is, the acronym is MASGD. It's Muslim Alliance for Sexual and Gender Diversity. And they're doing some really good work, just creating safe spaces for queer and Muslim people. And I got a book actually from, I think it may be like the director of that organization, Yafa. Blood Orange is the book. And it's a book of poetry, and it's amazing. It's a really good book. I don't know how to describe. It's kind of like, when was this written? Because this book feels, first paperback edition, November 2023. It literally just came out. Because I was going to say that this feels like a poetic kind of snapshot. It's like a photo in poetry of what's going on right now and how we feel about it. And I think it's amazing. And I wanted to read you one poem. This is called Lines and Circle. Okay. It's going to have quote unquote political things in here, but I don't like it when people describe things as political when they're really issues of human rights. So this is a human rights poem. So if that bothers you, I don't know what to do, like skip ahead or something. Okay. Lines and Circle. Okay. This is by Yafa and Blood Orange. It says, "You drew a line when you said you didn't have to tolerate queer and trans people. You drew a line when you said a settler colonial state is valid in defending itself, leading to genocide. You drew a line when you said cops are necessary to maintain the peace. You drew a line when you said all lives matter, black on black crime, a few bad apples, as if the orchard didn't need torching. You drew a line when you said pro-life, it's a woman's choice, that this is unlivable when rights have never been ours. You drew a line when you said anyone blue, as if blue and red are not siblings. You've drawn every line there could be while we wait for a circle." How about that? I just love it. So, get a copy. It's really good. I got mine on bookshop.org. I got mine. And I think maybe you can buy directly from masjid.org. I don't remember. That's where I found out about it on their Instagram page. And they had just done an unboxing of some of the books that were printed. So, definitely recommend this. And it's a quick... it's a really quick read. It's only 59 pages, so it's a real quick read. I almost feel like it must have been written like in October, maybe, and then published right away. Anyway, recommend that one. So, as always, thanks Dee, who always like puts these things on our radar. This has been a really like rough year for members of the queer community. There's a lot of stuff going on, at least in the US, that is creating pretty dangerous situations. And I wouldn't know about it if I hadn't, like, my biggest source of info is the Substack by Erin, Erin in the Morning. I get those newsletters in my email, and I learn so much about what's going on. And that I only knew about from Dee, from putting it in there. I think it might have been like the January Stitch for Pride prompt. So I'm super grateful to Dee for doing sharing so much. It's really hard to share when it's like your identity that you have to keep bringing up and talk about and explain to people. So I appreciate that they take the time to do that for us. And you can get a copy of Deefiant by Maryam. Maryam did a really cool thing. She's like, since it's Dee's birthday, buy Dee a coffee and then let Maryam know that you did it. Show like a screen print or whatever, and then you can get a copy of the Deefiant. So that was a nice birthday tribute, I thought. Okay, let me make sure I said everything I wanted to say about that. You got to see those TED Talks. I'll post them down below. They were really, I've been telling everybody about those. Okay, Namárië. So Namárië samplers by Modern Folk Embroidery. This is the Lord of the Rings piece. And I stitched on this quite a bit. So I made a bit of progress. I've reached the top and the bottom. You can see the square. So this might look a little different to you than everybody else's because I'm not stitching. There's a long quote that takes up most of the piece, and I'm not stitching the quote. I'm only stitching the like animals, the animal motifs. There are 3 bands with animals. This top band with the horses, this middle band with maybe serpents or something. I'm not sure exactly what the creature is there in the middle. And then there are some swans down in the bottom. You can kind of see right here, the swan's head. So there is a stitch along, there's a stitch along going on, One Stitch to Rule Them All, by, I think it's by the Meghans, Meghan and Meghan, the long distance stitchers, and they're doing a Zoom for folks who participate in this. So that's tonight. So I'm excited about that, to stitch with some people and see them, and I'll put a little more work into this. So this is another Jackson Fabric Arts fabric. This is Galway is the name, and it's this kind of really nice dark teal. And I'm using DMC 452, which, doesn't it look kind of silvery? It's not like shockingly white the way DMC Blanc would look, but it's got sort of a silvery look to it. This bit up here, I was experimenting at first with a different color and I ended up not liking it. So the whole thing will be in more like this color. This is the DMC 452. So I'll eventually take those stitches out and redo them. So that's that. Continue work on that. And then I have one last piece to show you. Oh no, that's not true. I have 2 technically, but one is under plans, but I've already put some practice stitches into it. Okay, this one and Sylvia, the Flowers for Sylvia piece, both of those, I kind of found myself, you know, the whole idea of stitching together and sticking together, right? I just felt the need to show some love to Yasmin Made with Love, because it's been a rough month. I think it probably is difficult for designers, creators, vendors of any kind to speak up, because there's a lot of retaliation and negativity that comes their way and it hits their business, but they do it anyway because it's the right thing to do. And so Yaz has done that this month. She's spoken up and she's taken a hit a little bit. So just wanted to send some love Yasmin's way. And so I started Raven, which is a monochromatic piece, kind of Halloween-y pieces. It has some bats that are going to come in here and a huge raven. And it's a pattern I've loved. Her raven and her queen bee are my 2 favorites. And queen bee I will eventually start. This one I have plenty of DMC 310, so I went ahead and started right away. And I love it. And it's on a piece of 40 count Mango Tango by Color and Cotton. These are all stash fabrics I've been holding aside some of my oranges for different Halloween projects, and I thought this is going to be perfect for Raven. And I love it. It's been really nice to stitch on. This flower is really pretty. There's like teeny bits of back stitching here to like create these little lines, and most of it is just full crosses, so that'll be fun to work on. I'll keep working on it. Yasmin is just a very sweet person. Her heart is in the right place, and she has a really big heart too. So I'm happy to support her. And yes, I hope things get better for you. And in the meantime, I'm going to have fun stitching on your pattern. Okay, I have something not cross-stitched to show you. And this is going to be a real surprise because I haven't talked much about doing this kind of thing. So I started a needlepoint, my very first needlepoint piece. And I guess I'll just show it to you. It looks like this so far. It's not I'm not working off of a pattern. Instead, I'm using diagrams from two resources. Let me tell you what they are. One is Ecolange by no, not by Ecolange on Instagram, who does these like video demos of stitches, of needlepoint stitches. And then the other resource is a blog called Whimsical Stitch, who has a lot of diagrams of how, like, put your needle number 1 here, and number 2 your needle goes here, and number 3 you come up here, and number 4 you go down here. Those kind of like numbered diagrams. So how did this all come about? Well, I've been going to these darn guild meetings, and they all do needlepoint. And so they have been, you know, planting that seed for the past few months. And then I was at Michael's, you know, picking out threads for Noche de Muertos. And I noticed I went to a Michael's that I don't normally go to, and they carried these. So it's DMC, but it's called Soft Mat, DMC Soft Mat. I had never noticed it before. They didn't carry it at Joann. When I was there, I was at Joann getting colors for Sylvia, flowers for Sylvia, and they didn't have any of these. So they were at Michael's. And it uses pretty much the same naming convention as regular DMC. Like in regular DMC, this red would be 815, but in the soft mat, they just add a number 2 to the front. So this is 2815. It's a really thick thread. It almost looks like a sock yarn. Almost. It's like a little bit thinner than a sock yarn for crocheters and knitters. And it's used for needlepoint. I looked it up. It's used for needlepoint. It has a big, I removed it, but it has another tag on it that says it has a big number 4 on it. I'm not sure what that means. So I picked up 8 different colors, all with kind of an autumn palette to them. And I just thought, try some needlepoint. You're going to try some needlepoint. And I was going to do stitch in hand, but then I got the fabric that I'm using is a 12 count. It's called monocloth. I think people also do needlepoint on like even weaves. So I could technically do on even weave, but I just went with a 12-point monocloth because that's what a lot of blogs recommended. And it shreds up all the time. Like these layers fall off of it all the time. So when I was at the guild meeting, I was like, well, okay, everybody, tell me what you do. Like, what's needlepoint for beginners? What should I know? What should I do? And so they were like, oh, check the death stash, Sandra's death stash, because there's a bunch of these. You have to get these stretcher bars. They're just wooden bars that fit together. They like, see that? They fit together. So they were like, here, let's go look in the death stash. So a couple members took me over to the boxes, all of Sandra's boxes that were donated. And there were tons of stretcher bars. So they gave me these stretcher bars. And they said, just get yourself a box of tacks. You have to tack it down. And then that's how you stitch on needlepoint. You have to hold that fabric down. Otherwise, it'll keep coming apart. So that's what I've been using. And that's getting these stretcher bars is what kind of sealed, like that day when I came home from the guild, I'm like, okay, get this together now. You have all the materials. Go ahead and start. So I don't know if any of these have names. They probably do. Like, I think, actually, I do know. This is a mosaic stitch here, this bar that I did here. This may be like a Bargello style, or I'm not sure if it's Bargello or Bargello, but these kind of have that look to them. I don't know enough about needlepoint, everyone, to know what these are, but this is the showcase of all the different colors I picked out. So I'm basically just I'm looking up different stitches. I'm just doing little patches of them. So this whole thing will be kind of eventually a patchwork of those. So one night a week, I've been pulling this up, putting in like, just doing this in one night and then setting it aside and going back to cross stitch. It's, I love the look of the needlepoint. I find it a little bit frustrating. I think these stretcher, like this set of stretcher bars I picked out is just too big. It's really, it must be like a 16-inch, maybe 14 or 16-inch set, and it's too difficult to like get the right muscle movement down. It's cumbersome. So, I do find myself getting into a routine where I can do, you know how a lot of you, I think, I don't do this with cross stitch, but you know how some of you like have one hand underneath and one hand over? Like you can put the needle up through underneath and pull it up for this hand and then put it back down. And then I don't do that with cross stitch, but I have been finding that I do that with needlepoint. I think it also helps that this is a 12 count. It's a humongous fabric. So, it's just been easier to look at and easier to get that motion, the back and forth motion going with that. So we'll see where this takes us, but hopefully I'll have a couple more patches done to show you next month on that one. It doesn't travel anywhere. It sits right next to the couch. These little bits keep falling off, so it leaves stuff behind, so I don't take it out that often. But anyway, it's just been kind of a fun experiment and kind of cool to learn about a new fiber too. So that's that. We'll see where it takes us. Okay, plans, and then that's it. I'll be right back. Okay, plans are left. I just want to check. I did have something. I know I forgot some things. Oh, I forgot two really big things actually. Well, one big thing and then two more big things. So I meant to mention, have you ever seen the cross stitch patterns by Catone Co on Instagram? It's Jody Ann Morgan, and they do mostly candles. They're how do they describe them? It's like gender neutral human form candles that celebrate all body shapes. So like the candles are shaped like bodies, torsos, and legs. But they could be anybody. They could be any gender. And they also have cross-stitch patterns on their page. Cross-stitch patterns of their candles. So I thought that was kind of cool too. I meant to share that back when I was talking about, because they had posted some candles for Trans Day of Remembrance. So I meant to share that back then when I mentioned that. But anyway, I'll link them below too. Okay. Oh, I do have... Sorry, I'm going through notes and finding stuff I forgot to tell you. On my piece of mango, where I'm stitching this beautiful raven by Yas, it's a big piece. So on the other side, I'm loving how the DMC 310 looks on it. So I'm also going to stitch a pattern that I picked up from Etsy from Raven Coven. And I'll put the picture up here. It's called The Wood Witch, and it's just another Halloween pattern that uses DMC 310 that I think would look great on this fabric. So I've been kind of on the lookout for patterns that look really beautiful with DMC 310 because I have that cone I can use now. I was watching, Maryam had recommended uplift stitches on Flosstube, and they're really delightful. I enjoyed, they have a great Flosstube. They stitch a lot of really cool pieces. And then they also do, like, you know how some of us do like book talks or garden talks as like an add-on to the video? They do a games talk. So they share what, like, they're big board gamers, board and role-playing games and all that kind of stuff. So they share their picks for games. That was really great because I actually found a game that I want to give to my nephews from that one. So, but why did I bring them up? Oh, because they were doing cross stitch by Stony Creek. That was also a Halloween cross stitch that was monochromatic black. It had like a haunted house and I don't remember, usual Halloween-y kinds of things. But anyway, just my eye has been looking out for patterns like that. Okay, plans. I don't know if I will do this, but I'm kind of entertaining the idea of doing a whip parade because I got my documentation all sorted out for my current whips. So all through 2023, I haven't been talking about it much, but I've been de-kitting a lot of items just having a real, like a reality check about what I really want to stitch or not stitch. And then using up those fabrics for other things. I've been dekitting them, putting the threads away, and moving on with those. So I've dekitted a lot. So if you watch my whip parade, my last one I did was 2 years ago. Some of that stuff I'm not working on anymore. Some of it has been finished. Some of it I'm keeping, but I'm going to maybe shorten it, do less with it. So my whips list now, my current whips list is, I think it's at 120 because I didn't include Sylvia or Raven, my latest 2 new starts, and it was at 118. So I think I'll double check it, but I think I'll be at 120. And that's including, like, for example, in my Palestinian patterns piece that I showed you very first, like each of those, it's got 4 patterns in it right now from 4 different designers. So each of those is a separate whip in my list. So like when I finish that tiny Palestinian flag by Hibstitches, for example, that'll be a whip that's done. So I'm trying to decide if I want to do a whip parade now that it's been a couple years and I've kind of gone through a sorting of stuff. I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna think about it because it takes a lot of work. It's a lot. It'll be a full day of packing and unpacking stuff, and then the editing. It gets a little cumbersome, but I know they're fun. I get a lot of joy out of watching whip parades, so I want to be able to contribute to that too if people enjoy that. So let me think on that. I also thought about maybe doing like a whip parade for just projects that I touched on from this year that I haven't finished yet. So that would take less time. Or I thought about doing a whip parade that is all sells, like just the whips that are sells with people. So I'm mulling all that over. We'll see what happens. 2 big projects to start at the end of December. So one is 1 Dozen Quakers. This is with EJ from Sunshine Stitchers. And the hashtag is Bake Me a Quaker, Sal. Because it's Quakers. It's 1 dozen Quakers, but actually it's like 1 dozen plus a little bit more. So we're going on that theme of like a dozen plus a little bit more. So we're doing Baker's Dozen, Bake Me a Quaker, Sal. And then EJ has planned out, you can, if you're joining the Sal, you can stitch it in whatever order you want, but she's, for her own use, she's separated the chart out into 13 parts because we're starting in December. So it's a Baker's Dozen of months also. So, yeah, so she's divided it out, so you can follow that order or you can do your own order. So I did some test stitches for this because when I was at Michael's picking out that gray cotton fabric that I used for restarting Afshan sampler, and then I was picking up DMC to start Noche de Muertos, I saw these tote bags. And once again, they were all kind of folded up into a square, sort of like this. And right away, my eyes went to it and I thought, wait a second, I can stitch on that. It has a weave that's so easy to see. So I'm stitching on it. So I thought, what if I did 1 Dozen Quakers on a bag? And then I could actually use the bag. So I've done some test stitches here. And this is using DMC 3807. It's a beautiful purple. I think it's going to show a little washed out on camera here, but that's a little bit truer. It's a very muted, it looks bright, but it's a very muted, like bluish grayish purple. It's really pretty. And I think it looks great on this. Like this has the bag is a very vibrant, bright yellow, and this is a little bit more of a muted, bright purple. So I think it's a nice contrast. So I was experimenting because I wanted to see, should I use one strand or 2? So I started it with 1 strand, but I didn't like the way it looked. It wasn't covered up. The stitches weren't covered up enough. So this part here, this bit here, I've done with 2 strands, and I like it way a lot better. So I'm gonna stitch on this bag. I think that's what I'm gonna do 1 dozen Quakers on, and we'll just see how that goes. I like the idea of having something that I can actually do with my stitching when it's done. Yeah, so that's what it is. So I'll keep you posted on that, of course. I'll work on it a little bit each month, and we'll see if we can finish the bag by the end of next year. They have these bags in different colors at Michael's. I felt a little bit guilty afterwards because stuff like this, I try to look for at thrift store. Steve and I went thrifting a couple days ago. It was so nice to just have a day together and doing something, getting out of the house and doing something fun. And I usually I've been trying really, really hard this past year to buy, if I'm buying clothes, I try to buy only from thrift stores. And I've basically been achieving that. And so I like to get to a point where I can do the same thing with textiles. It's much harder, of course, with cross-stitch fabrics. Because, for example, like this one's okay. This one's been really good to stitch on. But some of the linens that I've bought from thrift stores that are not meant for cross-stitch, they're linen, but they're not specifically for cross-stitch. The weave on them has been a little bit off. So that when I stitch something, like if the thing is supposed to be a square, the finished piece really looks like a rectangle. So like it's not exactly an even weaving. But there's still great fabrics to stitch on. And I find, good deals at thrift stores. So I do feel I buy this with a little bit of guilt because I think I have some consumerism habits that I'm not proud of. And I think this sort of thing is one of them, So I should, I don't know, take that for whatever it is. I don't know what that is. I'm working on it and I need to do better and not just, buy all this cheap stuff that probably whoever made it was not compensated fairly for it and all that kind of stuff. I have to be a little bit better with that sort of thing. What else? Oh, I'm joining the 2024 Modern Folk Embroidery Sal. And I have it all sorted out. I'm using, let me find it and I'll show you. Here it is. No. Sorry, 1 second. I have another piece of hot cocoa. This is the piece I was using for the Palestinian patterns. Piece from Stitch Me. It's 20 count Ada. And is it 20? Yeah, 20 count Ada. And I have in my stash, I have a silk screw that I've never used before. And so when I was organizing some this summer, I just put it back on my radar. So it's this beautiful, it's navy blue. It's a little bit more dull than what you're seeing there. It's a darker navy blue than what it looks a little bit more brilliant on your screen and jewel toned, but it's actually very muted and much darker. And so that's what I'm doing. I am setting myself up for success on the 2024 sal. What does that mean? I'm stitching it only in one color. That's what ended up working for me for the 2021 Fruits of Plenty stitch along. Monochromatic is better for me. I'm more likely to finish it or at least work on it. I'm not close to finishing that one. And I'm using an Ada. I know people say will look better on linen, but I'm more likely to stitch on an Ada and get through more stitches on an Ada. So I'm hoping that will encourage me to have some progress on that project. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful project. And I was showing Steve the pattern when it came out. And the one that he was most drawn to was the one that's on the cover, I think, that has the red and navy blue stitching. And he loved that combo. And I thought, okay, well, at least I can keep the navy blue in my final color picks. But I won't do the dual tone. I won't do the dual tone stitching. I'll make it all the same color. So that's that. That will be a end of December, probably over break. I'll start that one. I think technically we're supposed to start it January 1st, but I usually start sales a little ahead. I can't help myself. So I'm forgetting something. Oh, I have one more little thing to show you. I'll be right back. Okay, last thing. I don't have much I usually tack on a garden talk and I missed it last month. Not much to report from the garden. We've done mostly cleanup, cutting back old foliage, and we have some calendula that are still blooming. I think that I saw that it had fallen a little bit after some cold weather the other day, but it had been blooming up through a few days ago. So that was just a few tiny pops of color in the garden, but mostly the garden's going to sleep. So we'll have more to say on that probably in the spring, in February or March. I'll do some seed starting, and I'll be picking up seeds for next year, so that'll be the next time I think we do garden talk. But anyway, the last thing I wanted to show you is when Steve and I went thrifting a couple days ago. We actually stopped by a place that was not so much a thrift store, it was more of a resale shop. And I splurged and bought a couple pieces of finished needle points. They're really weird and retro, but I was just drawn to them. And I think I removed, they were in terribly tacky 80s sort of plastic and metal frames. I'll see if I can put a picture up of what they looked so dated. And the stitches themselves also, the patterns also look kind of dated a little bit, but I just was really moved by them, and I thought, well, I'm starting needlepoint. Let me save these pieces from the resale shop. So I'm going to show them to you now. They're going to look really messy because we took them out of the frames they were in, and they were glued onto foam core. The edges were glued onto foam core, and then that foam core was glued onto other foam core. It was so hard to take apart. So the edges look a little papery and messed up, but I wanted you to see. So this is one. Isn't it weird? But it's needlepoint, and it's really pretty. And the colors are kind of bright. I love those colors. So it's this face here. I would like to know if anyone knows anything about needlepoint. Do you know anything about these patterns? I would love to know what they are. Are they patterns off of like are they stitched off of a pattern, or did someone create them themselves? There was no information at all about the pattern, so I know nothing about them, but I'd like to know more. So that's one. And then the other one's really cool too. I mean, they both, do you see what I mean? How it looks kind of dated a little bit, but still kind of, I feel like I could maybe put it in a modern frame and change it up. This is the other one. I was just kind of moved by it. I think there's so much like, it looks so alive. It looks, I don't know. Something beautiful. And then all those reds and oranges, like these autumn tones, you know, I like that too. So here's what the whole thing looks like. So anyway, I will be, you know, it's not urgent, but I will be looking for frames to put these in. I'll have to see. I have a number of frames, but I don't think I have one large enough for these. So I'll be on the lookout for some larger frames and see if I can reframe them myself. And I was just thinking, like, if I put them in kind of, you know, I buy a lot of frames from, I'm not remembering now what the name of the framing company is. There's a framing company on Etsy that does like reclaimed wood frames, and I tend to buy frames from them. Like, I can picture this in kind of a natural wood frame, and it would just give it a different look, I think. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you too. So anyway, that's that. I think that's all I've got to say. I've said it all, as the Sunshine Stitchers say. I hope we gotta keep doing, keep calling, keep writing, keep sharing, keep speaking up, keep learning, keep amplifying, and keep stitching too, and keep sharing, and keep finding joy, and keep stitching together and sticking together too. Hope you all are doing well, and I hope to sort out my plans for December and either do a Flosstube at the end of December or maybe a wood parade. We'll see. Okay, I'll talk to you. Have a good rest of the weekend. Bye.